Harry Chapin, Joe Dimaggio, and the Korean War are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is July 16th, 2021. It is the 197th day of the year. We've got 168 days left in 2021. It's your 29th Friday of the year, and it's in the 29th week. It's the 26th day of summer, and we got 68 days until fall. And you've got 132 days until Thanksgiving. Today is World Snake Day. World Snake Day seeks to raise awareness about snakes. This day aims to educate and remove the stigma surrounding snakes. They bite you, they strangle you, and you can't cuddle with them. So the stigma is well earned. I'm sure I'm going to get some snake lover grief in a minute. World Snake Day was established in 2014 by the Advocates for Snake Preservation. It is observed annually on July 16th. All right, let's see what else July 16th has given us. 1861, during the American Civil War, at the order of President Abraham Lincoln, Union troops begin a 25-mile march into Virginia for what will become the First Battle of Bull Run. This is the first major land battle of the war. 1941, Joe Dimaggio gets a base hit for the 56th consecutive game, a streak that still stands to this day. The streak lasted from May 15th to July 16th. I don't think Joe Dimaggio, unless you're a hardcore baseball fan, but when most people hear his name that aren't baseball fans, they just think of his, marriage to Marilyn Monroe or whatever. He was a phenomenal baseball player, but I'm going to go feed into what people think about him right now. He was so devastated when Marilyn Monroe died, Dimaggio claimed her body and arranged for her funeral at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. He barred Hollywood's elite, as well as members from the Kennedy family, including U.S. President John F. Kennedy, from attending. He had half a dozen red roses delivered 3 times a week to her crypt for 20 years. He always refused to talk about her in public or otherwise exploit their relationship. Now, he had been married once before. They were married less than 2 years. She went on to marry Arthur Miller after Joe Dimaggio. He never remarried. His attorney, who was at his bedside when he finally passed away in 1999, said his final words were, "I finally get to see Marilyn." His brother Dominic says that's BS, but that's the story. 1945, World War II, the heavy cruiser, the USS Indianapolis, leaves San Francisco with parts for the atomic bomb. Little Boy is what the atomic bomb was called. Actually, 2 of them. There was Fat Man and Little Boy at the time. This one had Little Boy, and it was bound for Tinian Island, where they loaded it up and sent it to Japan. 1948, the storming of a cockpit of a passenger seaplane operated by a subsidiary of Cathay Pacific Airways marks the first hijacking of a commercial airplane in history. 1950, the Chapin medic massacre. American POWs are massacred by the North Korean army. This happened on a mountain above a village called Tuman, I think that's how you pronounce it, in South Korea. Back during the Korean War, borders were changing all the time and hills were being taken, and these guys, I guess, got left behind during a battle. 30 critically wounded U.S. troops were stranded on top of this mountain. They were attended to by only 2 non-combatants, a chaplain and a medic. Now, in the rules of war, I always found it weird that war has rules, but there are rules. A chaplain and a medic are not to be killed or shot at or anything like that. They're there for a reason, and you're supposed to give each other the same respect. Chaplains and medics don't get shot at or killed. North Koreans didn't go with this. The wounded were discovered by a KPA patrol, which stands for the Korean People's Army. The medic was able to escape, and the KPA executed the unarmed chaplain as he prayed over wounded soldiers. Then they killed the rest of them. The massacre was one of several incidents that led U.S. commanders to establish a commission in July of that year to look into the war crimes of the North Korean Army, or the KPA. That same month, KPA commanders, concerned about the way their soldiers were treating prisoners of war, laid out strict guidelines about handling enemy captives. I read about this, and it was sort of like this was just a group or a unit of the KPA that were just out of control, and the commanders had to get a hold of it. It's too bad. 32 men. I don't know how you do that. I don't know. 32 wounded men, and you're going to go up and start shooting them. Doesn't make sense to me. 1965, the Mont Blanc tunnel linking France to Italy opens. Sadly, this one had a really big fire, killed a bunch of people in 1999. I was just watching the thing about that. It's pretty depressing. This is an amazing tunnel. I mean, at least what it did for travel in this area. It cut down the trip from France to Italy in this area from 7 hours to just 15 minutes. It was a very important place, and to have a fire like that, I'm sure it shut it down for quite a while. 1969, the Apollo program. Now, we talked about this one last year, but it's important, so I'm going to bring it up again. Apollo 11, the first mission to land astronauts on the moon, is launched from Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida. 2007, an earthquake of magnitude 6.8 and an aftershock of 6.6 occurs in Japan, killing 8 people and injuring at least 800 and damaging a nuclear power plant. 2015, 4 U.S. Marines and 1 gunman die in a shooting spree targeting U.S. military installations in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This guy drives by an armed forces career center in a strip mall and does a drive-by shooting there. Then he goes by a Navy Reserve Center where he rams his vehicle into a security gate, goes in one of the Reserve Center buildings and starts shooting people, goes back outside, shoots some more people, comes back inside where he exchanged fire with the police that had finally get there. The 5 police officers that were there all shot him. He didn't make it. Now, I have a strict rule on all my channels never to mention the name of a mass shooter. After the investigation, the FBI said the shooter was motivated by foreign terrorist organization propaganda. He was radicalized. Movies released on July 16th, 1993, Free Willy. I may have mentioned this one before, but I got a cousin named Willy. That poor dude can't jump in a swimming pool without someone yelling Free Willy. Every single time. We'd go to the beach, and if you got in the water, someone would yell Free Willy. But it was a good movie. I worked with the guy who was the stunt double. He's just this little guy. He's like 4'10", and he's a full-grown man. He was the stunt double for the kid in the movie. Born on July 16th, 1963, Phoebe Cates, American actress. She was responsible for the blood pressure of many young men back in the 1980s. She was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and she took her shirt off. That was the highlight of the movie for a lot of 16-year-old boys, I'm sure. Died on July 16th, 1981. We lost Harry Chapin, American singer, songwriter, and guitarist. He was very interesting. So he's the guy that wrote and sang Cat in the Cradle, which was his only hit. He'd been in the industry for a decade or so, and he never really achieved much past that. He had some other songs that never made their way up the charts or anything like that, and most critics will say he didn't have the best voice, but his songs were beautiful. You know, they were these story songs. Oddly, his #1 song was written by his wife as a poem. She gave it to him, said, you should probably turn this into a song. He read it and just kind of, put it down. Oh, great. Didn't pay attention to it. About a year and a half later, she said he happened to be looking at it and said, this is really good. When did you do that? And she's all, I gave it to you a year and a half ago. And he's all, oh. So he recorded it and that became his #1 hit. He did more free concerts than he did paid concerts. He just wanted to give away his music to his fans and have people come together, and he got really big into activism. Sadly, Harry Chapin was killed on the Long Island Expressway en route to a free benefit concert in Eisenhower Park in East Meadow, New York. Around 12:27 p.m., Chapin was fatally injured in a fiery traffic collision with a semi-truck outside Jericho, New York. I obviously didn't know the man, but everything I've read, everything I've seen about him, he was just a decent human being. When I watched the Behind the Music thing on VH1 about him years ago, I don't know who the rock star was, but he said, we were all busy being rock stars and capitalists. Harry was busy being a human being. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, be a good human being, and be nice to each other.